Good evening, esteemed colleagues and professor. I'll warn you ahead of time, I'm working at a bit of a technological disadvantage, so we're going to do my very best to get this right the first time. I will be using notes, and my um, topic is artificial intelligence. We'll go forth with the term AI. Again, that's artificial intelligence or AI, and its use in imaging and healthcare and even in the private sector. Um, a lot of times when people hear things like artificial intelligence or AI, and then you start bringing in robotics, everybody gets a thought of Terminator. Well, I'm not going to say something like that can't happen in the future. I doubt we're going to see it in our lifetimes, but you never know. Um, a lot of people don't understand that AI has already been used extensively throughout things like Google, our cell phones. Actually have AI on my washer and dryer, my stove, and my refrigerator, as well as my microwave. So I'm not sure exactly what role they play in those capacities, but just to be aware, AI has been with us now for quite some time, and I don't think it's going anywhere for a while. When you start talking about the non medical part of a healthcare facility, such as scheduling, building maintenance, um, air conditioning, water usage, electricity usage. AI is already performing jobs that humans have to perform. Of course, they have to have human counterparts looking at the information. Otherwise, it doesn't do any good. But they're already writing schedules, adjusting temperatures within the departments. They're even, like I said before, monitoring electric and water usage. At the opposite end of the scale, however, AI is already being used in some facilities to read images from x rays, MRIs, and even they're starting to write code for it to operate with PET scanners. Now, an MD still has to go over these things and certify that they're correct or not. And so far, everything has been very promising. And quite frankly, a lot of the research that I operated with showed that a lot of times they are more efficient, they're quicker, and they're more accurate than human eyes. And you never should underestimate the power of a human brain to invent something, but be aware that artificial intelligence is already inventing things by itself. And I know that sounds strange, but some of the larger corporations will give it artificial intelligence a project and tell it to either simplify it, make it more efficient, things like that, and it's doing it with aplomb. I mean, it's amazing. Um, as far as imaging goes, the trials have been ongoing, but so far, in most cases, the AI embedded in imaging systems has been far more accurate, quicker, and able to multitask far better than human counterparts. And while AI is still has to have a human supervisor, the progress has been astounding. When the coding has improved immensely for AI to be able to run better, and it can simultaneously compare things like known tumors, broken bones, and many other issues within the imaging field, and make comparisons far quicker than it could even a year ago. And AI is making absolutely huge leaps and bounds with the speed at which it's progressing, which has been good for a lot of folks. The other thing that goes with that that's making it so much more efficient is a little thing called cloud computing. Previously, if you wanted to send data from like hospital A to hospital B, you either had to do it over a modem or you had to do it on a disk and send it out through FedEx, UPS, or whomever. And now the problem with that is a lot of time, especially magnetic disks, would be corrupt by the time they got there. So the problem they would run into is they wouldn't have a complete image. There would be issues within the image itself, artifacts and such. There goes the lighting. It's trying to adjust itself. Sorry about that, folks. But with using the cloud, I can take an image in Bangladesh and it can be sent over to a hospital in San Francisco in seconds, where it can be rechecked either by another AI counterpart or possibly by, a human. Now, you have to remember that artificial intelligence and cloud computing, these are all basically generic terms for a multitude of systems. And this data can be not only, like I said earlier, larger amounts, but it can be done at higher speeds and hugely lower cost. Because if you stop and think about it, even if you got a media rate on a disk, say 10 years ago, you're looking at a minimum of 57 cents as long as it was just staying right here in the US. However, once you would send something from outside the US in, you're not only dealing with other postal companies, but you're also dealing with, how many different handlers and so much and so forth. So that's kind of where we're headed in that. And of course, they could use UPS or USPS, FedEx, or any kind of package delivery system, but you still had the other things to go forth and so on. So moving forward, as you probably have guessed by now, we are speaking about artificial intelligence in healthcare. And while I'm here, I'd like to give a special thanks to my professor. She's managed to get me on an accelerated graduation program. I actually had about 3 more quarters to go, and she took the time to look at my transcripts and realize that I'd already had a multitude of classes I didn't have to repeat. So thank you, Dr. Kushner. I appreciate that, and we'll move on forward from here. Um, when we talk about using artificial health intelligence in healthcare, a lot of people don't realize that, like I said before, that not only is it handling a lot of imaging, but it's also handling a lot of things in the department as well. Like I said earlier, it monitors water and electricity, it manages building temperature. It automatically shoots out an email to one of the maintenance techs saying, hey, the filter needs to be changed here, or hey, there's a light bulb out there. And it really depends on the facility and how up to date it is. Now, I will tell you that the modern facilities are being built to the point where it can sense when a light bulb is out. It can sense when a filter in a air conditioning unit needs to be changed out because of the fact that it has more pressure when it's pulling air. So onward and upward. And again, artificial intelligence is not just one technology. It's a collection of many technologies. Um, Most of these technologies have immediate relevance to the healthcare field, but the specific processes and tasks they support vary widely, according to Thomas Davenport in his writings in 2019. Artificial intelligence is, in fact, a convergence of many other technologies and it's been harnessed to take care of specific tasks, and it can be changed depending on what the task is. And even though there's many uses for AI, the tasks it can perform vary widely from basic calculations and accounting that people just don't want to do because it's just constantly the same thing over and over. And then they can go into highly detail oriented machine management and even complex multi unit personnel management. Of course, that's just a fraction of examples of what AI can handle, but it goes to show what it's capable of. If you take the average human and they start out in a position and they work that position for 20 years, there's a lot of things they do based on a routine that they've developed over that 20 years. So, unfortunately, when you go to replace somebody in one of those fields, you're looking at 2 or maybe even 3 people to replace that person because, quite frankly, you're trying to push a lifetime of knowledge into somebody new. In the realm of medicine, the nature of patient care can be daunting to say the least. Many new physicians and medical professionals can be completely lost when they finally get into the field and start working in their chosen area of medicine. Now, granted, doctors and PAs and nurses all go through similar processes where they have to go in and they work a little bit here, they do some of their schooling, and then they do internships and everything. But when you go from that setting into your first hospital, say 250 miles away, or maybe even in a different country, you not only have to know what you're doing as far as the medicine part goes, but you also have to know about the policies and procedures for we'll just say it like it is, company. Because even though it's a healthcare facility, they're still companies for the most part. Um, in healthcare, the most common applications of traditional machine learning is precision medicine, predicting what treatment protocols are likely to succeed on a patient based on various patient attributes and, in the context of the treatment. And Davenport also had made that statement in 2019 in the same article I quoted earlier. However, with the advent of the patient electronic health record, or EHR, going forward, it can focus on previous issues a patient has had since coming into the healthcare facility. If you have patient A that's been a long-term healthcare patient there, the computer has a basis on where to start based on their past issues that they've had. If they've had chronic bronchitis, the EHR already knows that. So when the PA or the doctor inputs that information into the computer, it can sit there and go back and say, oh, hey, he's had this before and this is what we did. The downside is that some healthcare workers tend to rely on the computer and not their own training. One of the instructors, well, actually more than one, but one that really stuck out was Professor Leroy when he was there. And he said, treat the patient, not the machine. It is very easy to look at the computer and it recommends A, B, and C, and you're not looking at the patient when you can see obvious things that the computer can't see. And you've also got an issue where most of your patients are absolutely not able to put into words what their specific symptoms are. So you've got to deal with that as well. So use your eyes, look at your patient. If he's got red spots on his face and he hasn't been around a mirror all day, he probably doesn't know that. So you have to look at that as well. It's when I'm talking about treat the patient and not the machine, it's really applicable to healthcare when you're dealing with the AI and the use of the computer to diagnose a patient. Actually, I had an incident recently in my own family. My daughter took my granddaughter to her physician's assistant in the pediatric system, and I'm not even going to say what hospital it was. But she got in there, they tested her for COVID and said she's fine, she can go back to school, did not even test for anything else. Well, over the weekend, my granddaughter didn't progress at all. In fact, she got a little worse. So my daughter took her to one of the walk-in minute clinics, or whatever they call the little walk-in healthcare areas, and they diagnosed her within 20 minutes of having pharyngitis, and she was highly contagious, and had to take her out of school for 6 days and be treated with antibiotics. Now the problem with that is when you get people that only see one possible issue, in this case COVID-19, how long would she have gone on and getting sick and maybe possibly even getting sicker without treatment because they didn't want to look past it. And then on top of that, when my daughter questioned the PA and then went to the PA's doctor and said, look, this is what the actual results were when I took her over to the other healthcare facility, they suddenly sent out letters and said they wouldn't treat the children anymore because she questioned the PA's diagnoses. Well, here's the problem: the PA was wrong. It was plain and simple. And if she had let her get sicker or just gone on what the doctor said, then she would have been right on the verge of actually abusing the child. So enough about that. We'll move forward. Um, by the time she was taken out of school for a week and everything, she could have been 2 or 3 days, maybe even 4 days closer if the PA had just listened to the patient. And I can't stress that enough. No matter how many machines we use in this business, and robots and artificial intelligence, you have to look at the patient. We've got to be cognizant of the fact that the EHR systems, number one, are not all linked. So if a patient's going to hospital A and then goes to hospital B and they're using a different EHR, they may not know anything about that patient. So take the time to look up from the computer and recognize symptoms that are in front of your eyes that the patient, once again, may not be able to verbalize. So moving on, there's a lot of private companies that are starting to use AI, and even non-healthcare companies. And the beginning is really starting to become a mainstream reality. Companies are using AI in the same way that healthcare utilizes the system as well. Many of the private businesses use it to schedule their help, they run basic humdrum calculations in accounting, control business air conditioners, schedule meetings based on the working calendars of all the executives. It can go in there immediately and look at 20 different executives and say, hey, this day and time, everybody's got free, so we're going to schedule it right then. It takes a human, most humans, a considerable amount of time to do that. And many people don't realize that an older form of AI has been working in factory jobs for quite some time. In the beginning, it was simply robots working on a set parameter with no job except to weld a joint or carry an object from one spot to another. Now these same jobs are being done by far more sophisticated artificial intelligence and or robots that can now check the weld that they just welded for quality and decide what the best location for an object may be based on efficiency. If you've got something that goes out the door very quickly, you want it close to an area where products are, put onto a pallet or bagged up ready for people to go, rather than an item that may not sell as quickly, maybe should go back further away from that area. so that you can have all your fast moving things where they need to be. Now, these same jobs are being done, like I said, with far more sophisticated artificial intelligence than they started out with. But you can kind of see where that has led to over the last probably 10 years, maybe a little longer. In fact, my very first degree, my very first bachelor's, was what they called in Asia at the time computerized logistics. Okay, now it's got a totally different name, and it's basically the same thing, except now the computer is telling you what to do and where to put things, and you still have the option to agree or disagree with it. But generally, the AI is far more sophisticated in efficiency. And there's a lot of different levels of artificial intelligence depending on the task that needs to be performed. In some cases, they can and do perform better than a human in the same position. You got to realize that the artificial intelligence is designed to look at all the choices and assess the best option. And AI and logistics is starting to become a huge player. One of the quotes from Manick in the article he wrote in 2023, quote, among these artificially intelligent, AI has emerged as a game-changing force, revolutionizing the way companies manage and optimize their supply chains. And that's really encouraging to see because the AI is doing a better job of logistics management than the average human. And not to say that humans aren't capable, but they're definitely typically slower. And, just that alone, it really speeds up everything. And this can all easily equate to healthcare because in reality, healthcare has its own logistics issues that AI can manage as well. Many things in healthcare facilities must be managed with its own supply chain. For instance, one of the top things that people don't think about that has to be managed in healthcare is food. It's very important. I mean, they've got to feed patients, they got to feed the hospital staff, they got to feed the people who are waiting with the patients. You got surgical supplies, medicine, linen, cleaning chemicals, and even building materials to maintain the facility with. And that just amounts to a partial list of the particular supply chain just in a healthcare facility. There's also a people chain as well: janitors, administrators, auditors, volunteers, various technicians, phlebotomists, doctors, nurses, imaging techs, and far more probably than I've even got on this list. And on top of that, much of the medical staff are on a rotation from other health care facilities, especially if you're in a small hospital that may or may not have 15 doctors on staff. They may be relying 4 or 5, 6 days a week on staff from other hospitals. And, the AI is going to make these choices on who goes where much easier. And there's no good old boy slash buddy system bias to assign the right people to right jobs. Just because Dr. Jones is friends with Dr. Smith, that's not a reason for him to be here, in this facility if there's a better qualified person. When we look at artificial intelligence in the form of the big screen, we see all the things that could happen. And right now, even the top creators of artificial intelligence are saying that we need at least a 6 month pause in order to reevaluate and assess the current AI and what it's capable of. Many in the field, and I'm talking many of these people that are giants in this industry, are saying that there's a massive danger in the field at this moment, and that this could be the apex of AI taking over humanity and actually outsmarting humans. And as stated here, quote, the experts predicted networked artificial intelligence will amplify human effectiveness, but also threaten human autonomy, agency, and capabilities. They spoke of wide ranging possibilities that computers might match or even exceed human intelligence and capabilities on tasks such as complex decision making, reasoning, and believe it or not, even learning. When it comes down to languages and things like that, AI is already deciphering stone tablets that man has not been able to decipher in decades and even centuries. But AI is doing it sometimes in minutes. The quote there came from Rainey in his article in 2018. But to simply put it, AI may have the ability to help create the utopia that many have sought. But what is the cost of that going to be? Will we still have our free will? Or will AI become our managers and prevent us from leaving home without sunscreen, a protective helmet, automated transportation? I mean, the list goes on without really having to work hard on it. And when the people who designed the machine tell us to be careful with the machine, should we listen or should we just stumble on without any concern? And it really makes you stop and think when the people that have created this are saying, hey, we need to slow down on this. It's probably a good idea to listen to them. Um, it's still left to be seen what's going to happen. However, the progress so far has been astonishingly well received. Many times it has been said that just because we can do a thing does not mean we should do a thing. And that's been said over and over and over again. Yet we still have reports of CRISPR babies. I'm not sure if you're familiar with CRISPR, um, working with DNA and stuff, but they can actually go in and take out what they consider maybe a bad trait or an illness that's in the DNA. And in China, there was a set of twins that were born using the CRISPR method. We've got clone sheep, cloned dogs. We've got cloned chickens. They're starting to clone beef and other things in laboratories for us to eat. And there's a lot of other things that really come to mind quickly if you stop and think about it. And in this example, there are many applications that every business can benefit from. Like, for instance, if you take Netflix, it knows what films and series that you prefer to watch. And that's based on what you've watched in the past. The artificial intelligence stops and thinks for a minute and says, you know what? He was watching Gunsmoke, so maybe he liked Bonanza as well. Or he was watching uh, 21 Jump Street, so maybe he would like programs in those genres. So, it's like Amazon. They know what you like to buy, when you bought it, where you bought it, and Google knows which symptoms and conditions people are searching for when they plug their symptoms into Google. You say, oh, my head hurts and my left eye fell out, and my right ear is bleeding. Google will give you a list of symptoms a mile long from different various databases that I can't mention here due to copyright. Now, all this data can be used for personal profiling, which may be of great value for behavioral understanding and targeting, but it also has potential for predicting healthcare trends, according to Adam Bohr in 2020. The place for AI absolutely exists within our world. In fact, it exists in many fields, companies, and work programs already. In the early days of scheduling, when I worked for Walmart, you had a paper spreadsheet basically that you had to sit and write everybody's names on. We weren't even sophisticated to put all their names in. We would have to look at their departments, and then we'd have to go to the sales figures and figure out what times we needed the most coverage based on what the computer said were our higher sales times. And then you went through that, you looked at all your associates and said, okay, I need Joe here and Sam here and Sally here. And it was basically just a repetitive schedule at the same time, every day, every week, and so on through the month. But now they've upgraded their system to the point where it knows exactly when Sally can work, what she's capable of based on the things that we've inputted. And it says, hey, not only can Sally stock the shelves over in shampoo, but she also knows how to run a register. So, and I won't even go into self checkouts. That's a paper that should be left for another class. So you can kind of get the idea where these things are going. As a manager, we'd have to go in and manually adjust the very first AI systems because it wouldn't get it right no matter what. That's pretty much non-existent anymore because now once the computer sets it, it rarely gets it wrong unless there's an emergency. Artificial intelligence, pardon me here, folks, um, actually can be superior to humans in some ways. As it currently stands, many people don't realize that AI has already started to change the shape of healthcare. However, there are many details and challenges that need to be addressed before its implementation into actual clinical practice. And that was by Tekison in 2019. Basically, what he's saying is when the doctors or physician's assistants looking this stuff up back on the EHR again, they're also inputting information to the AI system in order for it to diagnose and suggest treatments and illnesses that could be. In theory, the EHR has that information related to current patient's past care and uses it in order to diagnose and treat current issues. And we've kind of covered that, but the thing is once again, look up from the computer and see what it's missing because as of this particular moment, it can't actually see the patient, but I'm sure that's coming down the road fairly quickly. And AI has taken off again. We talked about private companies, but it's abounding all over. Not only is it helping people become more efficient, it's also revolutionizing the way we do business. In a recent study, 86% of CEOs noted that AI is a mainstay in their offices, and it's not a form of robots, and not in the form of robots or complex machinery, but software to run their day-to-day operations. mundane tasks that were being taken over by AI and more in many companies, not just in the US, but in the world. Well, where are these jobs going? Where are those people going? In some cases, if you take the artificial intelligence that's actually used in self checkouts at Walmart, those people were just put out on the floor. They didn't lose their jobs unless they chose to leave because all they wanted to do was cashier. But they've not really cost any jobs as of yet in those particular fields. But there are fields where people have lost their livelihood. If you're in a field that has been changed over to artificial intelligence, how do you get back into that field? You could go back to school and learn how to do something different. And as an example, if you look at billing and coding, there's a huge opportunity for artificial intelligence to take over that. In some areas, it already has. When I think it was called Dragon Speak came out 20 years ago, it was not really great. I mean, it was okay, but you'd have to go back and edit a lot of things in it, like if you're trying to write an article or something. So there's always going to be a need for human operators and administrators, but how long is it going to be before artificial intelligence is in the management position that's telling you what to do? And there's always going to be a possibility that a management artificial intelligence bot will be in charge of humans, but the real question is going to be when, not so much if, but when. This is perhaps one of the most concerning statements I found while researching it, and I quote, artificial intelligence has rapidly evolved in recent years, becoming a valuable tool for businesses to streamline operations, reduce production costs, and meet company objectives. In 2023, AI will play an increasingly vital role in leadership decision making with predictive analytics, natural language processing, and more. And Dennison said that in his article this year. Now, it seems to me like a prelude to the question above. Will AI be your manager one of these days? Well, it's left to be seen out there, and I think it's fully capable. And of course, we all have heard about things like Chat GTP or GPT, and a lot of times when you get on a company website and it says, let's have a chat, you don't realize you're not talking to a human. And a lot of older people don't realize that they're not talking to a human. They just get frustrated with dealing with them. You know, and another thing to think about, especially in healthcare frame of mind, is are artificial intelligent chatbots going to be worried about things like HIPAA? Are they going to have empathy? Are they going to care that your daughter's got the measles and your son has caught a cold and you can't come in that day because you don't have a babysitter? And then are they going to put a mark in your record? Well, you're late this day, slash. And that's one thing that I worry about with AI taking over management positions. I mean, not that you don't have humans already that don't care about things like that, but it's an issue that you have to wonder about. One of the things though that may be good in that is there's a lot of times, and I'm sure everybody that's listening to this broadcast realizes that you've had a manager at some time in your life you just didn't care for, and they didn't care for you. Well, with artificial intelligence, is that going to be a factor? I don't think it will be. Right now, if you walk into a room of 50 people, I guarantee you're not going to like all 50 people. The chatbot's not going to care. So this may or may not be an issue with AI, but if they do gain sentience, which some people have said that they've already found that, you know, um, that may or may not be an issue. I mean, it's another thing that are left to see for the imagination down the road, but we have to look at those things now before it becomes reality. If any of this stuff that I'm talking about is scary, and it seems like more like a science fiction type of an issue, either way, all these subjects have to be looked at in order to continue forward with either a reason to develop more or a reason to stop moving forward with it. Basically, artificial intelligence is available to everybody now. AI can be obtained easily with minimal cost currently and has been reviewed in many places. And I quote, they not only invest more, but they also invest more wisely with the goal of creating a veritable AI factory that enables them to incorporate more AI in more areas of the business, first in adjacent ones where existing capabilities can be repurposed, and then into entirely new ones. Chewy had said that in his article in 2022. And so many companies are involved in AI right now that many wonder where it will stop and if it will stop. What businesses will not need AI? small mom and pop companies. Like, to be honest with you, my wife has just opened her second store, and artificial intelligence is not something we really need right this minute. But you never know. I think it's going to be primarily medium to large companies. And again, getting back to AI gaining sentience, will it be given rights? Will it have a paycheck? And if it does, what does a computer need with a paycheck? It was recently widely reported on the news and some magazines and newspaper companies have been using AI bots to write articles. Of course, it goes on to report that the humans are still editing the writing, but either way, it would appear that humans may not have a future much longer in the writing field. Managers in the field of AI come from two different sides of the fence. In some fields, managers are looking to AI for the efficiency that they offer in everyday tasks. And in other fields, they look from the outside in with suspicion. And it's easily understood because many are yelling about the incoming problems of AI, while others laud it as the next best thing since sliced bread. When you look in healthcare, and we've talked a lot about healthcare at this point, and I'm sorry if I've droned on here, but in healthcare, there's so many things non-medical that AI is operating that one really wonders how long it will be before an AI bot, an actual robot with artificial intelligence, will be mopping the floors. Well, what about the flexibility and balance of these robots enabled with artificial intelligence? Will they do the mopping without falling into a puddle of water or shorting out? There's a lot of unknown in this field at this time, and many of these robotics companies are not really forthcoming with a lot of these answers. Sure, the companies want to keep their trade secrets under wraps, but when do they plan on letting the common man know what their plans are? This may answer some question, but it also leads to other questions. And I quote, AI enabled robots are programmed to be able to think and act for themselves. They can react differently based on what's happening around them, allowing them to carry out more complex tasks than traditional robots. AI enabled robots can also learn from their data sets and become better at performing tasks over time. And that was a quote from Mahindra in his 2023 article. To me, that's a bit chilling when it states that an AI enabled robot can learn to do its job better. The thinking man or woman looks at the Department of Defense robots and wonders what happens if one of these soldiers ends up with a glitch in the software. Will they start shooting each other or will they turn on their human handler? You see it in movies, and the movies are like all over the place. They range from kill all humans to save all humans, depending on which movie you're looking at. If you look at the Terminator, it's obvious kill all humans. But then if you look at iRobot, the vast majority of those robots were designed to keep people from getting hurt. So, it's out there. We're using it. It's extremely advanced now compared to what it was even 3 years ago. So I would say with the conclusion, it would seem that some people trust AI and some don't. It's curious that some of what humans consider their best minds are calling for a moratorium on AI work and advancement. But if we look at AI from the medical angle, we find that AI can read medical images far more accurately and multitask said images far better than its human overseer. As of this moment, not only is AI faster, but it would appear to be more competent than most human doctors reading the same images. In the clinical setting, AI has showed promise in diagnosing and treating patients with the help of a human, of course. Even in the military applications, a human fighter pilot lost 6 out of 6 aerial engagements with AI pilots. In other words, a plane went up that was powered by artificial intelligence, another one by a human, in the same aircraft with the same capabilities, and the human lost all 6 times, as recorded by their onboard simulator computers. Another set of issues that we discussed here was, quote, fortunately, there's a large uptake in interest here for the obvious reason that if people feel they can't trust AI, the whole industry is set back. There's been a tremendous increase in submissions at the ACM conference on fairness, accountability, transparency, and at neural IPS issues like fairness, privacy, interpretability, and getting more attention and stage time. And that was Coldway's article this year. And, is AI going to be fair? And we talked about that earlier, but because you may not like your supervisor, but with AI, there's no like or dislike. It's just what are you capable of? So there are some big questions that can't be answered here. Most of those are due to the fact that so much is known about AI at this time. And once again, these companies aren't really telling us a whole lot. How far can we progress with it? Will it rival human intelligence? And of course, will it kill off humanity in the name of saving humanity? Everybody's pretty much on the same page when they say humanity is the most destructive force on the planet, second only to Mother Nature. For decades, possibly centuries, man has been writing stories about a robotic utopia where humans just hang out all day drinking a margarita and, doing whatever they want to while the robots clean the house, wash the dishes, take the car out to get gas, even cook dinner for us after they go to the market and buy all of our groceries. Will these robots with artificial intelligence restrict us to so many calories a day, or will they let us eat what we choose to eat and how much? Well, these are just a few questions to be answered in the future. They still have to be answered at some point. If and when it comes time for the questions to be answered, what side of the fence will you stand on? Hollywood has been predicting the future for many decades now. Again, depending on the genre, are they again predicting the future? There truly will never be an answer to these questions and many others until we see how far artificial intelligent minds can expand and learn. Will they become the next savior of the planet or doom the inhabitants to extinction? And what if AI systems of the current world evolve into the next apex predator on the planet? These are hard questions to know the answer to, but there's only one way to find out. Colleagues, I've really appreciated my time here at South. This will be the last presentation I do. I've got a few assignments to do, and I am officially done, assuming I pass all my assignments. I want to take a minute to thank all of you and the professor. You guys have made my time here at South very, very fun and easy to handle. Again, y'all have a great day and be safe out there and enjoy your holiday as we go through the Labor Day weekend. And hopefully, I'll get to see all of you at graduation. Y'all have a great day.